In some respects, Steve and Danielle Kaplan seemed a very unlikely couple. He was a free spirit who'd take off alone for weeks at a time on daring motorcycle adventures. She was no daredevil, worked in acute care hospitals, and knew all too well the consequences of a trip gone bad. So, what happened a decade ago? I think you can guess. It's all chronicled in Danielle's new book. It's called I Married a Thrill Seeker, a cautious wife's memoir of her husband's risk-taking and their long road to recovery. And it brings Danielle and Steve Kaplan to our studio. Good to have you two here for your first joint interview, I gather.
Hi, Steve.
Okay, we'll see if you're still talking when this is over, okay?
A treat to be here with you and with Steve.
And with him too.
Yeah.
Both Steves.
Thank you.
I want to go, okay, take us back. Steve, what did you get out of taking these audacious, adventurous trips on your bike?
You know, I think you have to be a rider or somebody out there to really appreciate it. So I used to go to see the beauty of Canada, which was amazing places. I saw the fresh air, the rain, the smell, and I used to always travel on my own. I'd wake up 6 in the morning, ride all day till 10 at night.
Why'd you never bring her?
No, Danielle wouldn't go on a motorbike at all.
You never wanted to go?
No, never.
no.
Because?
So, with regard to my history, I had I'd done a master's degree on brain injury, and in fact, many of the subjects or patients that I saw were brain injured after motorcycle accidents.
How often did you try to convince him not to go?
You know, I learned something. You can't change someone. So I supported his desire and need to be a free spirit, but I was always afraid of the consequences, and he knew that, and that's why I would never, ever go on the motorbike with him.
But you always convinced her that you'd be fine, right?
You're right. Because,
which was true up until it wasn't.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
you're right.
If these trips bothered your wife so much, and you knew that they did, why did you keep taking them?
I think just the allure and just the pull of seeing, the beauty of the country and just being free. I was a risk taker. I always used to think I took calculated risks. And I used to ride pretty quickly when on open roads.
How fast?
Any cops here? Look, generally way over the speed limit.
120? 130?
Way over.
140?
140 on a complete open road, 150, 160. But that was just when I needed to go quickly.
And there's nobody else on the road?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Okay. Well, I got one ticket once. But generally, most of it was slow. It was paced. It stopped. I used to stop a fortune, take photos along the way, chat to people. So although I covered a lot of terrain, it was over time, and spent a lot of time in the saddle and talking to people.
Based on your knowledge of him, do you think he thought he was invulnerable on these trips?
So it's a really good sort of way of looking at Steve. I think Steve is a thrill seeker, a sensation seeker, and that kind of person, I think it's brain chemistry. And I think you thrive on the need to have extreme adventures, challenges, for him, speed. And I don't think you ever consider the risks or consequences. And I think that was Steve. He thought he was invincible, that it was everyone else on the road he had to watch out for, but he would be fine because he knew what he was doing. And as he said, when he thought it was calculated risks, he did his homework. He trained to be an expert motorcyclist, or in the early days, an ultramarathon runner or a long-distance bicyclist. So he does his homework, he educates himself, and therefore he believes he's invincible.
Did you believe you were invincible on these trips?
I used to look back, as you asked that, I always used to look back and say, because I had a motorcycle when I was young as well. And I said, thank God I got through those days, because I would never recommend anybody get a motorcycle when they're young, because then you really think you're invincible, you'll do anything. And when I got my second bike, the more recent one, I always just look back and say, lucky I got through those years. And as Danielle said, I did a lot of training. I did a lot of off-road courses, on-track courses, so that I became proficient in what I did. Did I think I was invincible? I don't think you ever can be as cocky as that. But I thought, as I said, took calculated risks within what I felt I could handle.
What kind of bike?
I had a BMW 1200 GS.
How much? How much did it cost?
I don't know, in those days, I don't know, about 15 grand. You know, Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman, they did those movies, The Long Way Up and The Long Way Around. They had those BMWs, and that's what got me interested in those, yeah.
Why did you never give him an ultimatum, given your concerns and your background, your knowledge of what could happen if something bad were to happen?
Absolutely. I had worked in acute care hospitals, in spinal, in trauma, in brain injury, and looking back, it was probably short-sighted. I should have given him an ultimatum, but I wanted to support his need to be out there, to explore. And in fact, the funny thing is, he had done 5 years of this long-distance bike riding. He had done all these challenges and the Iron Butt challenges, which are beyond extreme. I would call it bravery and courage on 2 wheels beyond. But that final trip that we didn't know was the final trip, as he left, and I'd never said it to him before, I said to him, Steve, if you have a frigging, and I probably didn't say frigging.
Hang on. I got the quote right here. Shelton, top of page 2. If you have a frickin' spinal injury or a head injury or you die on this trip, I'm going to kill you first. If you think you're going to leave me to manage our lives, the kids and the house without you, you are so wrong. Do not get hurt or die on this trip. That's what you said to him.
And that's the first time I'd ever said that. And probably it had been ruminating in me. I had been wanting to say it. And maybe my filter was gone that day. Maybe I was tired, or maybe I just had enough. And the interesting thing, we had gone for therapy over this divide between us. We went to see a counselor, and because I was super anxious about his trips, I would get stressed. I would monitor them the whole way, and until he got back, I could only then sigh with relief. And Steve never understood my anxiety. And he was always wondering, Dans, why don't you validate what I'm doing? Why don't you support me? So we went for help. And we couldn't really agree in the end. And the therapist had said, I need to show more support and validate his passion, and he needs to show more compassion and empathy for me. But we never really got to solve that one.
Well, because at the end of the day, you're either going to go or you're not going to go. If she had come to you, Steve, and said, look, it's either the bike or me, make your decision, what would you have done?
Well, she did that originally, because when I had my Scrambler that I mentioned earlier, my initial bike, I did sell it for the sake of our relationship, then that too was starting. I probably would have sold it. Would I have been happier doing it? Definitely not. Probably would have taken it out of her forever afterwards. But yeah, because family, I think, definitely comes first.
I called his bike his other wife.
All right, let me take you back to that day. It's Canada Day, 2011. You had really a quite marvelous trip planned. What did you want to do?
So the plan was, I'd done it right a few years ago when I went to Alaska through the Saskatchewan, through the prairies and that. I wanted to do one that was a little bit different, so I went through the States this time. Went through the States and then eventually worked my way up through BC. So
to Alaska?
BC, then to Alaska. Northern BC.
16,000 kilometer trip.
Yeah, but over an extended period, and having a day's break, every now and again, working. I was sort of working at the same time. Because most of the joy of this actually was the planning and the preparation, especially on a motorbike, because you have limited fuel. So I had to plan every single gas station stop.
2 weeks and change into this rather marvelous trip, you get the first sign that your life's about to change forever. What was that sign?
So yeah, it is that phone call you get, and I'd heard about that phone call from families of patients of mine. It is that phone call you get that changes your life, that you wish you could rewrite the narrative. You wish you could go back, but you can't. And so it's a phenomenal story. It was from a international response center in Texas who had picked up a emergency call from someone in very rural Yukon. And that someone was related to the spot. And maybe I can show it to you and tell
Please.
you about this incredible thing. So this spot is and if I need you to add to it,
Sure.
it is a GPS system, a satellite system, which has three basic benefits. One, you have a website and people can follow. So all of his crazy biker and other adventure friends
She says crazy with love.
Yeah,
Of course,
with
means it lovingly, yeah. Okay.
followed his trip, and they were able to monitor where he was and his distances. The second thing is it sent me automatic messages at the end of the day where his coordinates were. And so this actually created a lot of work for me because I would monitor those coordinates. Is he moving? Is he stationary? And at the end of the day, when I got the final message, I could breathe with relief. And the third most valuable one is it has an emergency button and connects to this international response center in Texas. And so it is, when you think about messages from this experience, every solo traveler needs to have one of these because you can't rely on your cell phone. You run out of battery. This has an extended battery.
Or you get to no cell zones.
Exactly.
You know, place with no
And
signal.
So he was in a no-cell area. He was on a deserted road in the most rural Yukon, in most rural area of the Yukon you can imagine. And we get this call from the emergency responders to say, we've had this signal. In fact, it's come twice. And what should we do? We believe that it is. They first asked me to identify myself and then your husband, Stephen. And my first question is, are the coordinates moving? And they said, no. It's been stationary for about 20 minutes.
What did that mean to you?
So it meant he is down somewhere, or assuming he's down somewhere since this wasn't his good night time. So they said, what do we do? Do we get the RCMP, the Canadian Mountie Police, and emergency vehicles out to him? And I said, yes. And they said, we have to tell you, we're probably about 2.5 hours from his location. He is a very rural location.
And you're thinking,
And I'm thinking, I am going to kill him. On the other hand, we don't know if he's alive or dead. And then the situation is I'm up in the Kawathas at our family cottage with my parents. My children are up in Parry Sound, Muskoka, working at a summer camp. They were teenagers. And Steve is in rural Yukon, and we are spread all over. And now what do we do?
well, let's put our viewers and listeners out of their misery right now and tell them what you did. You were on the ground, immobile, because
So it was raining on a sand road. I think it's 500 kilometers from Toronto to Montreal distance, raining and moving through potholes, and hit one that was way deeper than I thought.
you saw the pothole.
I saw it, and sometimes, you can, because I saw it, but too many potholes, you can't turn, enough, and I just hit it. It must have been way deeper than I expected, and it was, and I went flying off my bike. That's all I remember, just losing control of my bike and flying, landed up on my back, and couldn't really move.
Do you have any idea how far in the air you flew?
I don't. I just remember coming down with a thud.
And the bike didn't run you over.
No, the bike went on its own into the bushes. I think it was about 60 foot away. And I just lay thinking. It's one of those things that you dread. And I guess the first thing come to mind, what am I going to tell Danielle? What's happening here? And especially being so remote.
Did you lose consciousness?
Not at all. In fact, I was so lucid, and I guess it's the adrenaline that must have kicked in that just kept me going, kept me thinking, as clearly as I could.
I hesitate to give away the whole story here because you do want people to read the book and get all the juicy details. But suffice to say, there was a Good Samaritan who got you to a hospital, and there you were, and you eventually joined him in hospital. And I want to know what you thought when you first saw him looking the way he did.
So, it's interesting because I'm so comfortable in hospitals. I'd worked for so many years. And now here I am in Vancouver General Hospital, which they were beyond phenomenal. And I'm nervous to walk into this glassed room where he is. And I look at his face and I go, the first thing that comes to mind is, oh my God, he's so tanned. He looks so healthy. And I guess because he'd been enjoying his 2.5 weeks on the road. But I think it might be worthy, and I don't know what you think about sharing a little bit about the spot going backwards, because his road experience was beyond miraculous. And I'm not someone who talks about miracles. I'm a science person. I believe in events happen by the nature of what causes it. But this spot was phenomenal. Can I go ahead and share that little bit? So normally, you should carry the spot on your body, and Stephen used to on a backpack, but for this particular trip, he attached this almost like a walkie-talkie to a metal bracket on the handlebars of the motorbike. And as he said, he flew up in the air, he landed, and he didn't realize it, but he broke his spine and he damaged his heart. And that's why he was completely immobile on this road at dusk in grizzly bear territory. So not a good place to be without a car or a person for hundreds of miles and hours. He hadn't seen anyone. So he's not in a good position. The spot carries on with the bike, which now flies in the air and lands in very thick terrain, bush, where he couldn't see it. Some of the contents of his bike and backpack sort of splattered around the bike. Some fell a little closer to him. But this incredible spot broke off the metal bracket, flew up in the air as if Steve was the target, and landed in his reach because he could not move. So if you think of that, what are the odds of that ever happening? It's like winning the lottery of life.
Do you think it was divine intervention?
I'm such a science person. It's one of those we can't explain. But if you think it could have landed anywhere, any distance, and it landed in his reach, so he could actually press the button. And I don't think at the time, and you can correct me, Steve, he had any concept of how miraculous that was.
I didn't, because I didn't. Just looking around and seeing this orange object, pushing it, and as you said, press the button twice, because who knows that these things work? You don't know work as advertised. You never know.
And I remember Steve telling me when I saw him at the hospital, and when I first saw him, I was like, Steve, are you okay? And I'm asking, can you move your fingers? I'm going into my complete clinician mode. But I'm really thinking, you silly boy, look what you've done. But I couldn't say it.
Well, there's really two parts to this story. The accident is clearly the first part. You get to hospital, and then you take a turn for the worse. Something else happens to you. And again, I don't want to give away too many details of the plot here. But suffice to say, you're going to die. You're near death, unless they take some fairly heroic actions, and even those might not save your life and may leave you in a condition which you don't want to live in anyway. And your wife has the responsibility to make a horrible ethical decision about whether to let you die or whether to intervene and try and save your life. And if she saves your life, what kind of life is it going to be anyway? How much of all of that did you were out of it at the time, so it was left to her to make that decision. Have you two discussed how she made her way through all of that since then?
Yeah, so I wasn't aware of anything other than when I initially went to have my spinal operation. Thereafter, everything was a complete blank for about 3 weeks, completely. And I knew something, when I started coming around and off the medication and that, I knew something was going on with me, for sure. And working myself off all the drugs and that, I hallucinated, all that. And then eventually, I didn't want to hear from Danielle what really happened because I was scared. I was still going through a bit of trauma and unsure of what's going on. And we waited for a while, and Danielle told me, about 4 weeks into after the event, everything that had happened. And I didn't have a clue. I wasn't aware of that at all.
Do you think she made the right call in real time at the moment?
Well, we did always have a pact that we always spoke about numerous times about quality of life. And in fact, even going into my spinal operation, I'd said to her, remember our pact to quality of life. And I think that is what was forefront, her decision-making initially. Did she make the right choice by changing? For sure, I wouldn't be here other than that. But it was very tough for her. There's no question.
Well, Danielle, the question I'm going to ask you is about the kids, because they're away at summer camp when all this is happening, and you have to also decide how much are we going to tell them, how blunt are we going to be about what we tell them, and beyond that, if he does die, am I ever going to forgive myself if I don't let the kids come out to Vancouver and see him in the hospital? How did you figure all that out?
There was so much to navigate. The one good thing is I'm fairly good in crisis, but these were decisions of such huge magnitude. I mean, deciding whether Steve should go on to this procedure this equipment called ECMO, which is...
ECMO, it's an acronym.
Yeah, it stands for extracorporeal membranous oxygenation. And basically what it is, if I can explain it this way, when a fetus is born very prematurely and their lungs and heart haven't developed, they put on ECMO so it will do the work of their lungs and heart while their heart and lungs develop. In an adult, you have to have a mortality of like 80 to 90%. Usually the 10 to 20% who do come off it don't do so well. So he is really an enigma. And so there it is. That was a last-ditch effort to save him. Steve went into multi-organ failure, so that means his liver, kidneys, lungs, and heart were not functioning, and they were manually bagging him through an endotracheal tube in his mouth. So had they stopped bagging him, probably in the next little while, he would have just peacefully died. So we had to make that decision. Do we try this very last-ditch effort? I have to say that the physicians, critical care physicians, Vancouver General Hospital, and my brother, who's a critical care physician, and we were on the phone with him.
He's from Virginia, right?
He's from
and
Virginia.
He came up to visit.
He came up to spend time with us and to help me navigate. The two physicians, I'm going to say his name, George Isaac, who is another hero of ours, and my brother, Dr. Paul Merrick, together convinced me to give him this last-ditch effort, even though I had said all along the way, my gut feeling is I made a pact. We don't know his quality of life. We don't have a crystal ball. I can't take that chance. I've seen the outcome many times, and he would not want to live like that. And somehow, when you talk about my children, the silent voices of my children, my mother begging me to give Steve a chance, his siblings saying, please, we've got to give him a chance. And I'm like, you don't know what his outcome's going to be, and it's probably going to be very poor, which is hard to believe looking at him now.
It's amazing. It's a miracle.
He was really given, some people said 1%. My brother said actually probably on ECMO and not on ECMO, 0% of survival. I mean, here he is, multi-organ failure, as well as a damaged heart from the impact, as well as...
broken back.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Massive bilateral pulmonary emboli. Like, he was as sick as one could ever be sick. And here he sits, having risen so high. So my children, it was hard. I made the decision not to encourage them to come to Vancouver. And who knows? You don't know if you're making the right decision, wrong decision. I wanted to protect them. So I think my goals were protect my children. And once I decided Steve goes on ECMO, save Stephen. And that was just my way of thinking.
Steve, I'm going to give you the last word on this, and that is, in your heart, do you still wish you could get out there and get on that bike and take those trips again?
You know, I don't. 2 reasons. Firstly, when I saw Danielle go through in the family, I would never wish that on anybody. When Danielle stepped up to the plate and dropped every single thing she was doing and looked after me, brought me back, and was my advocate. I mean, I don't think I would have recovered as well without Danielle looking after me the way she did and talking for me. And then I've lost my nerve. And to be a motorcyclist, I think anything where it's speed and that, you can't be scared because you have to be confident what you're doing. And I don't think I'd want to get on again. But more importantly, I've got to consider my family, and that's where I want to be.
Well, needless to say, I'm thrilled that this story has a happy ending. And it has resulted in this book, which has brought you to this studio and allowed us to meet you. I Married a Thrill Seeker, a cautious wife's memoir of her husband's risk-taking and their long road to recovery, which looks like it's going pretty well, Hugh Kaplan, so hang in there.
Thank you. Thanks.
What a treat, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.